Hello, welcome to our channel, Sulfur Journey. I'm Tito Doc. We accompany the care of patients with family and friends on their journey. This channel is especially dedicated for those who are sick, friends of the sick, family informal caregiver, and the decision maker. If you are a physician, a member of the healthcare team such as nurses or PSWs, as well as those interested in palliative care and palliative medicine, you are all welcome.
This is part 2 of Take Care of Yourself. Read a story. Feeding of the 5,000. We'll read Mark, chapter 6, verses 30 to 44, and then retell the story from the perspective of the apostles, to help the audience identify with them, as they received self-care advice.
Please stay until the end because we'll have an activity on the retelling of the story of the escape of Prophet Elijah in the Old Testament. Please share your top takeaway in the comment section below. Your contribution could help others make a decision that is right for them.
Feeding the 5,000. The apostles returned to Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. And he said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a lonely place, and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a lonely place by themselves. Now many saw them going, and knew them, and they ran there on foot from all the towns, and got there ahead of them. As he landed he saw a great throng, and he had compassion on them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. And when it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a lonely place, and the hour is now late. Send them away, to go into the country and villages round about and buy themselves something to eat." But he answered them, "You give them something to eat." And they said to him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread, and give it to them to eat?" And he said to them, "How many loaves have you? Go and see." And when they had found out, they said, 5, and 2 fish. Then he commanded them all to sit down by companies upon the green grass. So they sat down in groups, by hundreds, and by 50s. And taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish he looked up to heaven, and blessed, and broke the loaves, and gave them to the disciples to set before the people, and he divided the 2 fish among them all. And they all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of the fish. And those who ate the loaves were 5,000 men.
Let us shine a light on the feeding of the 5,000 verses to find self-care tips. We returned to Jesus and told him all that we had done and taught. Jesus must have been aware of the apostles' keen interest because they told him everything they had done and taught him. Isn't this something that any member of the healthcare team does? Update the team leader, who is usually the physician? And he said to us, "Come away by yourselves to a lonely place and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and we had no leisure even to eat. And we went away in the boat to a lonely place by ourselves. So the apostles were tired from their long walk, preaching, and most likely miracles. Because they were surrounded by a large crowd, it was impossible for them to find the needed rest, let alone take some food. Jesus invited them to rest in a place where they could relax. Jesus recognized the importance of striking a balance between the demands of preaching, healing, and driving out demons and the needs of the body for food and rest. Jesus promoted physical well-being by encouraging eating and resting. I'm sure physical care activities such as drinking water, eating healthy foods like bread and fish, taking bread, sleeping haven't changed since then. The equilibrium is best experienced in a lonely place. St. Mark's lonely place turned out to be a place with a lot of grass, and the grass is green, indicating a spring to summer season, most likely in March or April. The apostles must have enjoyed the sight and smell of the green grass. If you want to take care of yourself, Jesus recommends enjoying the visual and olfactory treats provided by Mother Nature. work and self-care should coexist in a pleasant and comfortable setting. Now many saw us going and knew us, and they ran there on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of us. As he landed, he saw a great throng, and he had compassion on them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and began to teach them many things. People recognized Christ and his disciples, even if they were in the boat and at a distance. They saw them leave, observed the path the boat took, and then dashed in the same direction on foot, miraculously beating the apostles. Anyway, when Jesus and apostles arrived, they were greeted by a magnificent crowd. Consider the following scenario. You wanted to go on a private trip, but were met by a large crowd. Doesn't this appear to be an infringement of privacy? Take note, Jesus, instead of being annoyed, felt compassion to the crowd and labeled us like sheep without a shepherd. Without a shepherd, sheep are vulnerable creatures. As a result, the metaphor like sheep without a shepherd represents a lack of concern and leadership. This is yet another moment of mercy in which Jesus demonstrates his care, compassion, love, and mercy. And when it grew late, we, his disciples, came to him and said, "This is a lonely place, and the hour is now late. Send them away to go into the country and villages round about and buy themselves something to eat." You see, Jesus kept on preaching until the end of the day. Isn't that what we do as healthcare providers? Our enthusiasm allows us to work beyond our duty. Now, because the location was remote or far from food and water supplies, the apostles requested that Jesus send them away first to get something to eat. Knowing the location was remote and Jesus kept on preaching, was Jesus setting an example or setting the apostles, or rather testing the apostles' patience and perseverance in their mission? But he answered us, "You give them something to eat." And we said to him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat?" Jesus promotes by his command physical well-being such as eating. You give them something to eat. However, the apostles' reaction to Jesus' command is intriguing. Why? Well, the disciples indicate that they will purchase food with whatever funds they have available, and these are hard-earned. However, the amount of food that they can afford will not suffice because the crowd is simply too large. So the apostles appear to have been concerned that if they follow the order, their hard-earned savings would be squandered. There is a lack of motivation to follow. Is it possible that the apostles have grown tired of following and have refused to do so? Well, isn't this something that healthcare providers go through as well? And he said to us, "How many loaves have you? Go and see." And when we had found out, we said, 5 and 2 fish. Jesus instructed them to go through the crowd and see what food they had brought. There were only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish when they returned. It seems that the plot of the miracle story is developing at this point. Jesus kept on preaching in this remote location until it was nearly dark and people have no access to food. Then he commanded them all to sit down by companies upon the green grass. So they sat down in groups by hundreds and by 50s. St. Mark suggested that the apostles arranged for people to sit in hundreds and 50s in separate groups so that they could pass food between them. Here I detect organizational principles. And taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to us, the disciples, to to set before the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them all. So Jesus raised his eyes to heaven, thanking God the Father. I'm curious if he raised his hands with bread so that even the most remote observers could see what he was doing. The broken pieces of fish were then distributed. The Holy Mass appears to be comparable. And they all ate and were satisfied, and we took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of the fish. And those who ate the loaves were 5,000 men. So the 5,000 people appeared to be physically and spiritually satisfied after a day of listening and eagerness. There appeared to be 12 baskets, one for each apostle. They returned to Jesus with a basket full of bread and fish that he had given them, as well as much more. Thus, the mission task for the day is completed. Okay, it's time for a quick recap before we get into our bonus activity.
The biblical story of feeding the 5,000 provide take care of yourself tips. These are: give feedback to people around you, including the healthcare team and leader. Find balance. Be in a supportive environment where caring for somebody is balanced with self-care in a pleasant and comfortable setting. Service beyond the call of duty is a mercy moment. Anticipate problems for yourself and those you care for. It has the potential to prevent complications. Consider not endangering yourself or your possessions. Organize your environment to reduce stress. Give thanks even in hard times.
The following passage is taken from Book 1 of Kings, chapter 19, verses 5 to 8. It is a retelling of the point of view of the prophet Elijah. He was threatened by Jezebel, a power-hungry and murderous daughter of a king. So Elijah flees and journeys into the wilderness of Beersheba of Judah. And let me read to you the retelling. And I lay down and slept under a broom tree, and behold, an angel touched me and said to me, Arise and eat. And I looked, and behold, there was at my head a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. And I ate and drank, and I lay down again. And the angel of the Lord came again a second time and touched me and said, Arise and eat, else the journey will be too great for you. And I arose and ate and drank, and went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the Mount of God. And what self-care tips were made possible by the angel. If you like this video, please share and subscribe. Don't forget to press the notification bell